We in Toronto have heard of you since, I would say, maybe about 8 years ago. And you used to be with the CPP, and now we're not sure of your current political status. Can you please elaborate on that?
Well, a number of us, men and women, sometime late last year, assessed the political situation in Ghana, particularly the need for the expression of a different political philosophy, a different way of influencing national policy and public service in Ghana, different from and as an alternative to what the NDC and the MPP has been able to do so far in the Fourth Republic. Some of us were from the CPP, others were from other political leanings. Some had never been in politics before. We all got together and realized that it was necessary to start something new, something different that will meet that objective. And that is how come I left the CPP on December 28th of last year. Other people didn't have to leave anything because they were not part of any existing political party. So we all got together, a number of us as founders of the Progressive People's Party, first as a movement of people with like mind, and then based on consulting the Electoral Commission, became imperative that we conform to the regulations of the political parties law and start a political party officially.
I see. And so, currently, what is your relationship with the current leader of the CPP, Sania?
The CPP is part of my past. Its history, as far as I am concerned. I have moved on with the Progressive People's Party. And so those kinds of questions, for me, they don't arise. The CPP, as far as I'm concerned, today is another political party, just as the NDC is, just as the PNC is, just as the MP. And we interact with them just as we interact with any political party. Nothing personal, nothing direct, nothing whatever. It's just that they are now a different political party from the Progressive People's Party, of which I am a founding member.
And what is the difference in vision between the BPP party and the CPP? I mean, do they have any difference in terms of the vision for Ghana? These two different parties.
I don't really want to be talking about CPP and PPP.
Oh, okay.
It is the PPP versus the other political parties. That is where I would like to draw the line.
Okay, so what is the difference in vision with the other two major parties? In terms,
well, the Progressive People's Party by nature, the word progressive follows a progressive philosophy and a progressive way of life. And quite simply, ours is to deal with those matters that affect directly the human beings in the country.
And the other parties?
We also follow an agenda based on 4 pillars of stewardship, a different kind of leadership as number 1. Number 2, on creating jobs. Number 3, education. And number 4, a better health care for the people. Now, we also agree to certain principles. One of our most important principles is that of using the best people available so that Ghana can derive the benefits that it needs quickly. And let me explain that right away.
Okay.
We don't want to consider that anyone is a Dagomba or an Ewe or Ga or Fanti or whatever. We don't want to consider whether someone is a Muslim or a Christian or with no religion or any of that sort. We also don't want to consider whether someone is NDC, MPP, PPP, and so on and so forth. As long as someone is a Ghanaian and there's a job to be done, there's a position to put someone in, there is something to be done by someone. We just want the best man or the best woman to be applied to that situation so that Ghana can derive the best possible result as quickly as possible. That spirit of using the best people is one of our most important principles. A second principle has to do with the youth. We want to be essentially a youth-led political party with a dominant percentage of people being young people, so that those of us who are in our 50s and above, that we will train young people, train them, to respect their opponents, train them so that they do everything in a positive way, so they can take over from us, and they can have also a seat around the policy-making table. In the same way, we want to give women a leading role in many things that we do. And for example, we're the only political party in Ghana that has a fast rule, a hard rule, that says that at least 20% of our executive positions from the local level to national must be filled by women, and we've complied with that. We're also saying that in this coming election, at least 20% of our parliamentary candidates will be women, and we are going to comply with that one as well. And the final principle, which is a very, very, very important principle, from other political parties, is that we subscribe to applying incorruptible leadership. Incorruptible leadership to Ghana. We are human beings for sure, but we want to deal with this principle of incorruptible leadership because we believe that if we're able to apply that principle, that at least when we're talking about revenue, we should be able to double government revenue using that principle. And to give you an example, this year's budget puts up about 700 million Ghana cedis there to be used to pay for judgment debts. Now, how do judgment debts arise? They arise because there's leadership that doesn't do the right things, that there's leadership that mismanages, that there's leadership that allows people to get away from doing the wrong things. And we believe when there is incorruptible leadership, no excuses, no allowances given, that we ensure that people do the right things, and those who persist in doing the wrong things get punished. And that we strengthen our state institutions so that the police is strengthened, the Attorney General is strengthened and separated from the Minister of Justice, so that the IRS is strengthened, and so on and so forth. A lot more can be done for Ghana. So those are some of the things that differentiate us from other political parties. Let me mention two other things finally. We are the only political party that has said that should Ghanaians vote for us to be in power, we will commit to completing all projects started by J.J. Rawlings, by Kufuor, by Mills, or any other administration that they didn't finish. We will complete them all, and we will not care who takes credit, because then a lot can be put there for all Ghanaians to benefit from. And then I want to make sure that I mention our education policy, because our policy is different from that of the others, and I'll explain. We say that we want, we say that we want free, continuous, and compulsory education from kindergarten all the way through senior high school. The NDC says they want to expand access. The MPP says they want to provide free senior high school education. We believe that what they are offering is not good enough. And besides, what they are offering also doesn't comply with what our Constitution says our government must do. Indeed, if you go to Chapter 6, Section 38 of the Constitution, Chapter 6 is where you find the directive principles of state policy. And there it says very clearly that we must have free, compulsory education. And it's not just basic school. It also goes down further. And in other areas talks about vocational education. It talks about secondary education and so on and so forth. Nobody wants to talk about the compulsory aspect of education. But I'm sure that in Canada, as I know in the U.S. in particular, that children must be in school through high school. I lived in a community in the U.S. and I did attend the final year of high school. And I know in that small community, the sheriff had a duty to make sure that children were not walking around who were supposed to be in school. Compulsory nature of education is very necessary. So there are a number of things that differentiate us from other political parties. And then my last point on this is that I am the only one running to become president who has said openly to our people in public that if you go insult somebody, if you go cause injury to someone, if you go disturb the peace, particularly as we're doing biometric registration or as we're beginning a campaign, we will be the ones to give you up. We will not wait for any law enforcement agency to come and harass anybody, and that we will conduct ourselves with discipline and show respect to our opponents even when we disagree, even when we are showing what is it that we can do versus what others will do. And my position is different from the all-die-be-die thing that Nana Akufo-Addo has been persisting in talking about, which doesn't help. It is also different from the taking no responsibility position of President Mills, who gets up and says that I'm not a policeman, I'm not a law enforcement officer, I'm not a prosecutor, and so wants to get away with the injury caused by his people and the damage that is being inflicted on others by people in the NDC. As leaders, we must understand that everything ends with us. It starts with us. The buck stops with us.
Okay, Doctor.
We must take responsibility for the actions of our people.
Okay, Doctor. So, if you are elected today, what would be the very first 3 things you're going to implement to help Ghana?
Well, they're very simple and very quickly. I've already said to you that we're going to take an inventory of all existing projects.
Okay.
And then we will begin completing them. Number 2, I've said also to you already, free, compulsory, continuous education, which means building more schools, building better comprehensive schools, motivating our teachers, making sure they have housing, not just for those in secondary schools, but from kindergarten all the way up. And then cleaning our environment. And that is the only way we get rid of malaria, the only way we get rid of cholera, the only way we get rid of guinea worm, and so on and so forth. Cleaning our environment. Those quick things. Those are the things. I said quick things, but I should have said the first things, because they will not be quickly dealt with. They are matters that we must start very quickly and persist and continuously implement measures to ensure that our environment is clean, that we all bring discipline in how we treat the environment, and ensure that our people will become a healthier people, so they can all participate in ensuring that our country becomes prosperous.
And so the very first three things you're going to be doing when you come in power will be to complete all projects by President Rawlings, President Kufuor, and the NDC government. The second will be free education, and the third will be clean up the environment. Fair enough.
Let's clean up the environment so we can, those preventable diseases, we can get rid of them. Absolutely. But you see, it all comes within the framework, as I've already mentioned to you, of incorruptible leadership. Because incorruptible leadership, you see, when a leader is not afraid of institutions, you can have incorruptible leadership. And let me just explain that very briefly. I want to ensure that we separate the office of Attorney General from that of the Minister of Justice. Minister of Justice becomes the legal advisor to the President. But the Attorney General, that becomes an independent office, away from the presidency, away from political choices, so that anyone does anything wrong, they are dealt with promptly. Okay, the politics doesn't get involved, so that with this Wyoming thing and others going around in Ghana, they will not arise. Being an incorruptible leader, you make sure that you strengthen the police and make them as independent as possible, strengthen them, give them the equipment, the facilities, the training, and so on and so forth, so that they can function just as the police function in America, in Canada, and other civilized societies. It also makes sure that if you take the National Identification Project, which I played a leading role in starting, that if we put this National Identification Project as a priority, then from birth until you die, you have this one unique identification number. Now you can build you can build credit information systems. Now you can build criminal information systems. Now people can't go and get 2 or 3 or 4 different passports. They can't go to a bank A, get a loan, not pay, go to bank B, go to bank C, and destroy our financial system. The discipline that needs to come to society will come from incorruptible leadership, a leadership that is based on example. And part of incorruptible leadership says, I will make sure we change the Constitution so that the provision that says that the president should not pay tax will be removed, so that by example, the president of the land will pay his or her tax first and then challenge the citizenship, the citizenry that is there, for them to also follow the good example and pay tax.
I see. Doctor, before talking to you this morning, I did read a little bit about your background, your bio, and I noticed you have a very lucrative job in the States, and then you decided you were going to go to Ghana for politics. Why did you make that drastic change?
Well, first of all, I didn't go to Ghana initially to do politics. I went to Ghana to engage and take the consultancy business that I was part of with the Deloitte and Touche to Ghana and to Africa, which we did successfully. And at some point, I became the chairman of the board for Deloitte and Touche for the Africa region. Oh. And it was something that I felt that I could accomplish all the things humanly possible in America, but if I didn't do anything in my own country, then I wouldn't have done much. And so I luckily for me, I was able to reach the highest level in my profession, which is partner with Deloitte and Touche in the U.S. And so I took it together with others to Ghana, to Africa, and were able to get things successfully established. I also then was able to get into other business initiatives in Ghana, which thankfully some of them have done well. But you see, my father taught me that public service is something honorable, that as an individual in the private sector, I can do something and maybe 1,000 people benefit. 2,000 people benefit directly, or 3,000 people benefit directly. But if you're in public service and you do something great, something wonderful, millions and millions and millions benefit. And if those of us who believe we can do something positive also don't do it, then the wrong people get into office, and then the result is that millions and millions and millions of people suffer.
I see.
That's why I got into the politics.
I see. I'm talking about Deloitte and Touche. I was also a consultant for Deloitte and Touche in Toronto for about 7 years. And I couldn't really put together how you came within that transition, going to Ghana, establishing Deloitte Africa, and then into politics again. What was the turning point for you while you were in Ghana doing your consultancy, get into politics?
Well, the politics came gradually. It didn't just, it came gradually. As I was in Ghana, as I was doing my consultancy work, as I was doing professional work, it strikes you when you're in a country like Ghana where so many people are poor, where so many things are done the wrong way. And when I was consulting for government agencies, private sector agencies, I could figure out how you do well professionally, how you become successful, how you make money. I could figure that out, and we were doing it. But then we turn around and look, and you see tons and tons of opportunity, and also many, many things going on that were not going on right. So I decided to get involved directly so I can help change the course of events and whatever in Ghana.
What was the first thing you did?
I started at the lower level. I went to become an elected member, to seek election to become an elected member of a district assembly where I come from in Elmina.
Okay.
So I started from the bottom up to learn the situation, to learn what can be done, and to study the feasibility of wanting to bring change in the way of life in Ghana.
And so what would be your advice to maybe people like me or others who are very professional in what they do here, and then thinking about going to Ghana and perhaps going into politics to help like you did? What are your advice?
Well, first of all, you have to be good in what you're doing.
Okay.
You need to be a good professional, or whatever business that you're in, you've got to seek excellence. That it helps, because if you're not seeking excellence where you are, it will be difficult to want to translate it into excellence in Ghana, even in the private sector in Ghana, because there are many, many challenges there. And you must understand that you will face problems of all types. So persistence is an important thing to keep in mind. So once you have those things and you have something to offer, my point is that if you go to Ghana and you are in Ghana and you are doing something good in the private sector, by all means, you'll be helping the system. You'll be helping the economy. You'll be helping your country. So that by itself is positive. But then if you want to get into politics, you must have an open mind. And you must want to get into it just for the sake of public service. I tell people that if you're going to go into politics to get your house, to get your car, to get your TV, and so on and so forth, you're in the wrong place. Eventually, you may even win an election, but you will not succeed. You will not be happy, and you will not leave a good reputation. So it's important to ensure that we go there only to serve and not to get what we couldn't get outside of politics or outside of government.
So how can somebody like me join your party and represent a constituency in Ghana while I'm a Canadian citizen and I live here, but I'm willing to go?
What we ask people is to get involved. We are a new party. We are an open party. We ask people, we have a number of ways that people can get involved. We've got a website, pppghana.org, that people can go there and register to be a member. We are on Facebook, that people can go and register to be a member. We have people representing us in Canada, in the U.S., and so by getting involved either through the Facebook or through our website, you can become a member, and then you can indicate to us your area of interest. And we have people following up on anyone who shows interest so that they can indeed participate, because we want people who will share ideas, who will help us formulate positions on anything from the economy to energy to education and so on and so forth. We want people to help propagate our political platform. And then we want people who want to learn in politics in the right, positive way. We want people, for example, as I'm speaking to you, there's a lady from the U.S. who has come and is going to become our candidate in the Asante Achim, that is the Konongo area, in the Ashanti region. There's someone who has come from the UK who is going to become our candidate in the Fantiakwa district. And just as I left Ghana, someone has come that has registered from the Netherlands who is going to become or wants to compete, because where he is interested in, there are two other people who are interested in becoming parliamentary candidates on the ticket of the PPP. So there are a variety of ways that people can get involved. Of course, we want people who like, anyone who likes what we say, who reads and likes what we stand for and wants to help us. You have relations in Ghana, you have friends and family in Ghana. We want you to encourage them to join us, to support us. Those who can also financially, politics involves money. We want people who can help us to also contribute, because we are doing it through our membership. It is our members who are making contributions, big and small, to help us. And in a very short period of time, the Progressive People's Party is in all the 230 constituencies, in all the regions. We're setting up office. It is. You can't go anywhere in Ghana today and not see a signboard or some visible something that shows that the Progressive People's Party is there.
Okay, Doctor.
In a couple of hours, I see a couple of hours. In about an hour, we are going to do something that is new in Ghanaian politics. That is, we are holding a tele meeting with all of our 230 constituency executives, all of our 10 regional executives at the same time. And I'm sitting here in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be addressing them. They will have the chance to ask questions. And we're finding different ways, innovative ways to communicate and propagate our ideas and get our people motivated.
Okay, Doctor, now that brings me back to the point of, for example, if I am a Canadian citizen, meaning that I did renounce my Ghanaian citizenship, how do I become a candidate? I mean, can I become a candidate?
If you are a citizen
of Canada,
you cannot become a candidate. The only way you can participate directly that way if you went to become a dual citizen.
Okay, but then is that possible today in Ghana?
In Ghana, you can become a dual citizen. I know people in the U.S. who are dual citizens.
But what I heard was the dual citizenship process has been suspended as we talk today.
I will have to check about the suspension part, but the law makes it possible. I know people who are dual citizens who carry both the Ghana passport and the American passport or the British passport. I know that there had been some interpretation by the former Attorney General Martin Amidou, and he stopped the process. But there is no way in law that anyone can stop the process. And so I need to check into it to see whether they have physically stopped issuing a dual citizenship status to people. And if that is the case, then we must mount a legal challenge to it, because as far as I know, what is in the Constitution, the change that was made is very clear.
Yeah, I understand that, but from what I can hear, from some of, as a matter of fact, one of my friends here is standing in the constituency somewhere in Ghana with one of the other parties, and we've been hearing about him having to renounce his Canadian citizenship before registering, and that is going to be a huge problem if the dual citizenship process is currently suspended.
Well, let me tell you what I will do. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me personally, I have lived in America, had benefited from, as I said earlier on, I went to 12th grade in America, did all of my education to the PhD level here. I studied, I lived and worked, became a partner in a firm like Deloitte, and look at where I am, making a contribution in Ghana. My point is that I want our diaspora Ghanaians to be able to fully participate in all facets of Ghanaian society. So if you go to, we have what we call a political platform, essentially a 10-point agenda, and one of them says that we will establish formally not just a diaspora secretariat, but actually find better ways of immersing or bringing back and Ghanaians in the diaspora so that they can participate fully in Ghanaian society. And that means being able to vote. That means being able to hold public office. That means an easier way of buying homes and getting jobs and so on and so forth. So my mind is very clear. So whatever it is that's going on now, that doesn't allow that to happen. We will change it, because I am a living example of somebody that had immersed himself fully in American society and has been able to go back and make a very, very positive contribution to Ghana. As I'm speaking to you, my companies in Ghana, we employ over 3. I have one of my companies, which is a banking institution, is in all the 10 regions of Ghana and has 48 branches and offers employment to almost 1,000 people. And I was able to do all of these things based on what I had acquired back here in America. So we must encourage Ghanaians who have lived, studied, worked outside, to encourage them to be able to get back and make meaningful, complete contribution to what is it that we're doing in Ghana. That's what the Chinese have done, the Japanese have done, the Koreans have done, others have done, and it has sped up their development and their march into prosperity.
Yes, Doctor, but then I was just talking to one of my friends next to me here now, and he said the issue of the dual citizenship being it in progress now or not, and the possibility of one having to denounce or their citizenship here in Canada, I mean, it's a major risk, because supposing I go out there, stand for the election by renouncing my citizenship, that is if the suspension of the dual citizenship is in progress now. And then I go out there and I lose the election, what do I do? What do I do?
Well, I understand that, but in life we make choices. We make choices. And we live by those choices. I'm saying that the law is the way it is today. What we must do is to work to amend the portions of the law that is not productive, that doesn't help us.
Okay.
That is why some of us, we've been championing even portions of the Constitution, changes to portions of the Constitution, such as allowing district chief executives all to be elected and not appointed, and so on and so forth. So we must seek change. And one way of seeking change is to put there leaders who are willing to lead the change and to make the change that we need possible.
Okay, Doc, we're getting closer to the end of our interview. What is one of the things that you think people should know about you that you think they don't know about you?
Well, many people need to understand. When I say I'm from Elmina, that's where I was born. That's where I grew up. My father was a teacher. My mother was a teacher. It is only through education that I've gotten to be where I am. So I've come from ordinary, humble beginnings, and I want people to know that I didn't just get to where I am just by magic or just one day. So I offer my own story, my life story, as reasons why Ghanaians, we should continuously seek something better for everybody, because you don't know who will turn out to be someone who will make a much, much even better contribution than I am able to make today. And the important thing also is that, I am able to do politics today in Ghana because I have been able to carry things out in my life. And so I luckily and thankfully, I have a good family life. I believe in my faith and practice my faith. I've done things that, again, thankfully have been successful in the private sector. That is what allows me to engage in politics in a way that, I believe in. If I don't believe in it, I won't do it. If I don't think it will make a contribution positively, I won't do it. I won't do something only because, just because it will be an easy way for me to become elected. I won't do it. If it doesn't fit in my philosophy, my way of life, and won't bring integrity and peace of mind, I won't do it. So people must know that for me, an easy way is not necessarily the best way. So I may be in a new political party, but I'm willing to sacrifice and work and work and work and work and continuously send our positive message to Ghanaians. And hopefully, Ghanaians will come to understand that there's a better way. There's a different way that will help them much better than what they've been used to in the past.
Okay, Doctor, we get into the final note now. So, what is the final message to Ghanaians living in Toronto or in Canada at large?
Well, Ghanaians living outside, I just want them to keep focused on Ghana, because no matter what anybody does in Toronto, in Canada, and in North America, your background is still in Ghana. If Ghana is successful, if Ghana is prosperous, you may even live the rest of your life where you are, and you will still have a better pride as someone who originated from Ghana. So we must all be interested. We must all apply our attention from time to time at least, and try and encourage the right leaders to be in power in Ghana. What you do can make a difference in Ghana, and I want people to be involved. And definitely, I want people to join the Progressive People's Party for all the reasons that I have given. Incorruptible leadership, using the best people, better education for everyone, cleaning the environment so that we can get rid of preventable diseases, and quite simply having a better people living in a country that they can be proud of. So before I go, let me thank you for the opportunity to talk to your listeners and the platform that you've given. I do hope that one of these days we can have another conversation. And for us, when we say Progressive People's Party, or we say progressives, or we say PPP, we say we want Ghanaians to be wide awake to our responsibility, wide awake to the opportunities that are there, be wide awake and accept incorruptible leadership, one that Papa Kwesi Ndoum and the rest of the people in the PPP are offering to Ghanaians. So, you should join us, they should support us, and something wonderful will happen in Ghana.
Thank you so much. My name is Jeremiah Kojiram. I was just talking to Dr. Ndoum, and I think, Doctor, you are a gem to Ghana. Thank you so
much. Of last year, other people didn't have to leave anything because they were not part of any existing political party. So we all got together, a number of us as founders of the Progressive People's Party, first as a movement of people with like mind, and then based on consulting the Electoral Commission, became imperative that we conform to the regulations of the political parties law and start a political party officially.
I see. And so, currently, what is your relationship with the current leader of the CPP, Sania?
The CPP is part of my past. Its history, as far as I am concerned. I have moved on with the Progressive People's Party. And so those kinds of questions, for me, they don't arise. The CPP, as far as I'm concerned, today is another political party, just as the NDC is, just as the PNC is, just as the MP. And we interact with them just as we interact with any political party. Nothing personal, nothing direct, nothing whatever. It's just that they are now a different political party from the Progressive People's Party, of which I am a founding member.
And what is the difference in vision between the BPP party and the CPP? I mean, do they have any difference in terms of the vision for Ghana? These two different parties.
I don't really want to be talking about TPP and PPP.
Oh, okay.
It is the PPP versus the other political parties. That is where I would like to draw the line.
Okay, so what is the difference in vision with the other two major parties? In terms,
well, the Progressive People's Party by nature, the word progressive follows a progressive philosophy and a progressive way of life. And quite simply, ours is to deal with those matters that affect directly the human beings in the country.
And the other parties?
We also follow an agenda based on 4 pillars of stewardship, a different kind of leadership, as number 1. Number 2, on creating jobs. Number 3, education. And number 4, a better health care for the people. Now, we also agree to certain principles. One of our most important principles is that of using the best people available so that Ghana can derive the benefits that it needs quickly. And let me explain that right away.
Okay.
We don't want to consider that anyone is a Dagomba or an Ewe or Ga or Fanti or whatever. We don't want to consider whether someone is a Muslim or a Christian or with no religion or any of that sort. We also don't want to consider whether someone is NDC, MPP, PPP, and so on and so forth. As long as someone is a Ghanaian and there's a job to be done, there's a position to put someone in, there is something to be done by someone. We just want the best man or the best woman to be applied to that situation so that Ghana can derive the best possible result as quickly as possible. That spirit of using the best people is one of our most important principles. A second principle has to do with the youth. We want to be essentially a youth-led political party with a dominant percentage of people.
We in Toronto have heard of you since, I would say, maybe about 8 years ago. And you used to be with the CPP, and now we're not sure of your current political status. Can you please elaborate on that?
Well, a number of us, men and women, sometime late last year, assessed the political situation in Ghana, particularly the need for the expression of a different political philosophy, a different way of influencing national policy and public service in Ghana, different from and as an alternative to what the NDC and the MPP has been able to do so far in the Fourth Republic. Some of us were from the CPP, others were from other political leanings. Some had never been in politics before. We all got together and realized that it was necessary to start something new, something different that will meet that objective. And that is how come I left the CPP on December 28th, being young people, so that those of us who are in our 50s and above, that we would train young people, train them, to respect their opponents, train them so that they do everything in a positive way, so they can take over from us, and they can have also a seat around the policy-making table. In the same way, we want to give women a leading role in many things that we do. And for example, we're the only political party in Ghana that has a fast rule, a hard rule, that says that at least 20% of our executive positions from the local level to national must be filled by women, and we've complied with that. We're also saying that in this coming election, at least 20% of our parliamentary candidates will be women, and we are going to comply with that one as well. And then the final principle, which is a very, very, very important principle, from other political parties, is that we subscribe to applying incorruptible leadership. Incorruptible leadership to Ghana. We are human beings for sure, but we want to deal with this principle of incorruptible leadership because we believe that if we're able to apply that principle, that at least when we're talking about revenue, we should be able to double government